famous before he could even draw his first breath. Desi Arnaz Jr. was born into fame and grew up constantly surrounded by it thanks to celebrity parents Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz Sr. You would expect that a boy born with golden spoons would be satisfied with his parents' legacy, not Desi Arnaz Jr., who decided that he wanted to make his own legacy. But it wasn't the easiest journey. The pressures of fame coupled with horrible personal choices led Desi down a tunnel of terrible consequences. Join us as we uncover the tragic story of Desi Arnaz Jr. Desi's start to life was unlike any in the 1950s. He was practically the most famous baby in America at the time. When his mother Lucille Ball appeared pregnant in the 1952 I Love Lucy episode, Lucy is on Saint, the world was stunned because before this episode no pregnant woman had ever appeared on a major US television network, which sounds pretty weird to us in 2025, but at the time this was groundbreaking. What made it even more incredible was the fact that the pregnancy was real. The episode was filmed while Ball was 5 months pregnant, and the tears shed by both her and co-star Desi Arnaz Sr. were real. I Love Lucy writers had written the show's plot to accommodate Lucille's real-life pregnancy with Desi. This level of originality was something Lucille was well known for. Many who watched her launch I Love Lucy agreed that the show was very innovative for its time and praised Lucille for this success. Praise which was well-deserved given the fact that she was not only the comedian and the actress but also the producer and the studio executive. Her impact in the industry was revealed after she was recognized by Time as one of the most influential women of the 20th century for her work in all 4 of these areas. Her husband and co-actor on the show was no slouch himself. The Cuban-American actor was also a producer and musician. He was even heading his own band. Together with his wife, they co-founded and ran the television production company Desi Productions, originally to market I Love Lucy to television networks. After I Love Lucy ended, he went on to produce several other television series, at first with Desi Productions and later independently, including The Southern Show and The Untouchables. When Desi was born, it made headlines, and Lucille estimated that 1 million people sent gifts and messages of congratulations. With his arrival so high-profile and his parents' success, Desi got an early start in the acting business and starred in his first role when he was just 4 years old. Around this time, his high-profile parents had had enough of each other. Their relationship had become very problematic, partly because of their busy careers, which often kept them apart. But Lucille stated that she just couldn't deal with her husband's infidelity and alcoholism anymore. So, she served him the divorce papers. Fortunately for young Desi, the divorce wasn't messy. The parents kept it mature and even chose to remain friends, which made it easier for Desi's first TV role on his parents' show to go as smoothly as possible. Just a couple of years later, he got another acting opportunity along with his sister on another of his mother's shows. He then appeared in one episode of The Brady Bunch, played a small role in a couple of episodes of The Love Boat, and starred in some other show. During this period of his early career, a 12-year-old Desi stepped into music as a drummer. He also formed a band with school friends Billy Hincher and Dean Paul Martin, who was the son of the Dean Martin. Their band was aptly named Dino, Desi and Billy. Surprisingly, the band was to some degree successful and they soon gained some fans. Unfortunately, this would also mark the beginning of a lifestyle that young Desi would come to regret. A lifestyle that he should not have been exposed to in the first place. As the band got followers, some became groupies. Let's not forget that the band was made up of 10-12-year-olds. This exposure wasn't the best thing for Desi and his friends. Yet, this was their life at the time, and they found joy in it. So much so that in the 1978 issue of People magazine, Dean Paul Martin would recall fondly that Desi was the lover of the group and there was no shortage of groupies. As his musical career progressed, Desi's acting career got another boost as his mother cast him for a role on her third sitcom, Here's Lucy. Already Desi was developing a reputation as some sort of ladies' man, which you would agree was incorrect as he was merely a boy at the time. Still, the reputation grew and there was some truth to it. When Desi turned 15, he got into a relationship with 15-year-old model Susan Callahan Howe. This relationship produced Julia, But Julia didn't get Arnaz added to her name until years later when a paternity test proved her relationship to Desi. After moving on from Susan Callahan Howe, teenage Desi began a romance on the set of Here's Lucy with actress Patty Duke, who was 23. This relationship wasn't amusing to Lucille, who wasn't happy that her son was dating someone several years older than he was, and she voiced her opinion on the matter when she could, which only gave the relationship more publicity. Then it only got worse after Patty announced she was pregnant with Desi's child. Shortly after they had ended the relationship, it was later revealed that she was involved with 3 people at the same time. Desi himself, who was a teenager then, there was actor John Aston, who was 16 years older than her, and rock music promoter Michael Tell. Despite claiming Desi was the father of her unborn child, Patty got married to Michael Tell. Her reason was simple, so that her child could have a name. With that kind of reason, it wasn't a surprise that the marriage lasted 13 days before ending in an annulment. Desi had believed that he was a father at 17 and for years he continued to think he was. However, DNA tests would later prove otherwise. When that happened, Patty pointed to John Aston as the actual father, and this was also discovered to be a lie after a couple of years, thanks to tests that determined that Michael Tell was the kid's biological father. You could almost imagine the emotional gymnastics Desi was going through when it was announced that he was going to be a father for the second time before the age of 18, and how tragic it was that after accepting the fact and playing that role for a number of years, he came to a shocking realization. Still, it didn't stop him from finding love again. This time, it was Liza Minnelli who was pretty successful as a multi-talented actress. She and Desi had known each other as little kids in Beverly Hills. They bumped into each other as Liza was flying to Las Vegas, and they had not only caught up, but also decided to date. This decision was met with disapproval from Lucille. She felt the singer-actress was too old for her son, and because of Liza's rumored reckless lifestyle, she believed it wouldn't be a good influence on Desi. But since his mother's disapproval had never stopped him before, it was almost unsurprising when Desi announced his engagement to Liza months into the relationship. They were already living together, so it wasn't too shocking. The media loved it, and this was the news for weeks. Another person who applauded Desi's decision was his father, who was already picking a date for the wedding. Desi soon made the engagement official by exchanging rings in front of hundreds of photographers. But to everyone's shock, the wedding never happened. Within months after the engagement, Liza had fallen for someone else, 47-year-old Peter Sears, and they were planning to get married soon. That relationship didn't last long either. Desi was heartbroken over Liza, but he soon picked himself up and was dating the likes of Victoria Principal before she became famous in Dallas, Kim Darby, and Tina Sinatra, singer, actress, and the youngest daughter of entertainer Frank Sinatra. Having been called a womanizer since he was a teenager, it was almost as if Desi didn't care anymore. He leaned into the fame and dated openly. In fact, at just 25, he had completely bought into his reputation and even admitted during an interview that he was a playboy. You might wonder how Desi became this person. But you don't need to look further than his father, Arnaz Sr. Lucille was convinced that he was being unfaithful to her, along with him coming home drunk several times. Her suspicion was confirmed when Hollywood procurer of prostitutes, Scotty Bowers, claimed in his memoir, Full Service, that he had provided as many as 2 to 3 prostitutes per week for Arnaz while they were still married. Bowers added that each of these escorts was paid $200 for their services. Lucille even confronted Bowers about this and publicly slapped him in the face, yelling, "You stop pimping for my husband." Eventually, the solution for her was divorce. Even though Desi was young when his parents broke up, as he grew older, he understood. And unfortunately, his father still had his vices in full display. He drank, womanized, and gambled. Arnaz Sr. might have worked on a solution if only he hadn't seen it as an effective means of releasing stress. And this was the lifestyle Desi saw. Then there was the other part. Most people would agree that the Desi Arnaz name opened doors in the entertainment industry, but few would admit that it also brought with it a level of pressure that not many are aware of. One of the challenges Desi Arnaz Jr. faced was the weight of expectation. According to Desi Jr. himself, it got to the point where he would pay his doctors directly for prescription drugs. So, it started initially through self-medication. He said that his friends and family, especially Lucille, tried desperately to get him to seek assistance in rehab. He said, "For one thing, I was so stubbornly sure I had all the answers, and drugs were taking over my life." Desi even admitted to experimenting with LSD, coke, quartz, mescaline, as well as marijuana by the time he was 23. He added that he was completely lost. Only about 2 years later, when the doctors examined him, did they reveal that he had done so many drugs that his brain scan reflected the biology of someone in their twilight years. This was the wake-up call for Desi Jr. He sought help in the form of rehab, trying desperately to get his life and body back. Throughout these personal struggles, Desi sought peace in his passion for music and the performing arts. Thanks to his dedication to his craft, Desi was able to starve the desire.